Reptile will go down and the Swampert comes back. The Swampert has 2 moves ready to go. Auburn going for the Earthquake.
Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm back at it with another Caleb Pro Tips for PvP, and this one is called Don't Take the Bait. If you haven't had a chance to check out my other pro tips video, I will link them down in the description below. Hopefully they've been helpful for people to pick up on different strategies, either moderate to advanced strategies and mechanics, so that they can improve their gameplay throughout. So what do I mean when I say don't take the bait? And I'm not talking about charge moves where you have a bait move like a Poison Fang on Nidoqueen and you want to land a hard-hitting move like a Earth Power on a Steel type. You're baiting with the Poison Fang and landing the Earth Power later. Yes, that is a bait mechanic with charge moves, but what I'm talking about in this video is more so a strategic bait in terms of baiting out Pokemon in your lineup so that your opponent can sweep you in the back with a third Pokemon. A lot of ABB teams are built for these kind of bait out strategies. Essentially what happens is they have 2 B Pokemon in the back that checks the weaknesses of A Pokemon. If they're able to bait out your only check to B Pokemon, then their second B Pokemon have the potential to sweep your entire backline. We obviously see a lot of this in Go Battle League, but this is actually very prevalent in Show 6 tournament formats as well. The most important thing is recognizing when they're trying to bait you out. Because the thing is, if they successfully bait you out, there's not much you can do in the back-end matchup a lot of times that you might lose. If you recognize that they're baiting you out, and if you recognize the situation to avoid falling for the baits, you actually have a much higher chance of winning that game. I'm going to show you some gameplay where I do fall for the bait and some gameplay where I don't fall for the bait, and I'm also going to show how this plays out in official tournament formats too. Before we get into battles, a big shout out and thank you to all my patrons who've been supporting my content creation. If you would also like to have early access to my strategies and lineups, or see behind the scenes footage of my battles, feel free to sign up in the Patreon link down below. In this first battle, I will be playing some Master League battles, so it doesn't really matter again what format this is. This is Go Battle League, but in this situation, I am taking the bait here. So what my opponent here is doing is to try and draw out Steel types. Not only is Groudon really good against Steel types, but also they don't want that Groudon versus Ho matchup. Now, looking at my team composition, I have a Dragonite in the back and a Ho. And in all likelihood, my Dragonite actually has a lot of play into that Groudon, especially if they're running Mudshot. And because of that, I have 2 strong answers. My Ho has the ability to beat that Lugia, especially because I have a slight energy lead, and I can debuff with Sacred Fire. So it's just a matchup that I can be in. Now, obviously, I have a positive matchup now, still with both back-end Pokemon, but the third Pokemon is the one I need to worry about. And here it is. It's Rayquaza. And so here's the thing. Rayquaza does not want to see a Dialga. They got exactly what they wanted. They want to draw my Steel type, especially Dialga, right? Being a very strong check to Rayquaza with that super effective Dragon Breath damage. And now, yes, I threw the Brave Bird to grab a shield because I knew I was in a tough matchup in the back end. But again, this is still a bad situation. Maybe the better play swap straight away to Dragonite, but with shields up against the Rayquaza here, and I'm playing on 100% speed, by the way. I don't know why I feel slow. Maybe it's just slow after playing on 200% speed, but I just want to highlight this specific matchup. My opponent, even though down a shield, is in such a positive matchup that they don't need the shield advantage. They could be at a shield disadvantage and still potentially win this game after this. Of course, I should be able to Dragon Breath down this Rayquaza, but the most important thing is they already weakened my Dragonite to the point where even the Groudon could take it out. I'm debuffed, I can't swap out, and there's no move I can possibly throw at this Groudon to take it out in one shot, right? Yeah, no, there's really nothing. Like, even Draco Meteor debuff like this is probably not going to be enough. Ooh, where are you going, Cranberry? Anyway, so here's a situation where I recognize my opponent is going to bait me out here, and this is another GPO limited format. And so here, they swap in Samurott. So what I'm thinking here is I'm slowing down to 100 speed. My Blaziken can beat Samurott. I mean, it's water into fire type, but they do resisted Fury Cutter, and the counters really add up. So I knew this is the matchup ahead of time, and they have a Cordelian in the back. So what does that mean? If they have a Cordelian in the back, that means my Bastion, although kind of neutral into that, is still going to have the advantage there. And if I get a shield here, great. If not, I could counter down, come out with energy. So we do grab a shield, so that's even better. We will have to invest a second shield here before they invest one. But going down a shield and not falling for the bait is a good situation. Why? Because they're not coming back in with Cordelian. That's the most important thing. They're in a bad matchup. So you see their third Pokemon right away, which means that allows you to really know how to play out these matchups. And on top of that, you can really chunk the third Pokemon quite a bit. I know I have a positive matchup with Bastion into their Cordelia already, so I'm not worried about that. We're on even shields, or I'm down a shield, but I know I can still win that matchup. Now we see their third Pokemon, so we have a huge advantage in this matchup now. We have full information. They've only seen one of my Pokemon so far, the display skin. That's it. I've seen all three of the Pokemon, and at the cost of an extra shield, and I have taken out a Pokemon and a half at that point, right? Even the Lantern's low. And now we have the matchup we want. No problem. I also have my own Credillies, right? So I can mirror matchup it if need to. But honestly, at this point, there's not much they can do here. And so, again, if you don't take the bait, right, then you're going to be a good spot. Most trainers will instantly swap out in that situation because they have a third Pokemon to check it. Of course, if they come in with their only counter to it, then you also win, right? Because they have no other counter, and then the Blaziken in that situation can sweep the whole team, right? And they catch a move on their Lantern, but again, they just wasted all the energy on their Lantern that they gathered, and we can finish it off. So those are two quick examples in Go Battle League where you see this, but of course, in official tournament formats, this can play in quite a bit as well here too. In this first clip, I'm going to show a battle between Auburn and Eat Strawberries, and this is a scenario where one of the trainers does take the bait, and you can see that it does not end very well for them.
And you know what? I said how risky that Trevenant was. I think it actually had a lot of play there versus Auburn's team, able to get that alignment that you wanted with the Shadow Swampert. But where Trevenant struggles is in these shields down scenarios. It does not have that bulk of something like a Registeel or a Galarian Stunfisk or a Noctowl. But let's move into game 2 here, DeFi. What are we looking at?
We are looking at a Purified Sableye into a Shadow Swampert, and it looks like both trainers are content to stay in this lead matchup. Do you think Switch is going to be valuable here, Wilson?
Yeah, really good question. Absolutely. In fact, I think that it's critical. But we actually see a swap out now from Auburn, which is going to bring in the Galarian Stunfisk. Keep in mind, though, with these Shadow Alolan Ninetales, with a 2 Powder Snow advantage, you can actually win this 2-shield matchup. So I see some potential here for Auburn to potentially actually turn the switch, get the alignment that he wants. It's an interesting team from Eat Strawberries. We actually have an ABA Ghost team. So that Noctowl has a lot of play on Auburn's team, and what's waiting in the back for those 2 Ghosts? It is the Noctowl. So I like the way that Auburn is architecting this team so far.
We'll have to see if that pays off. We do have a Rock Slide that is going to hit for super effective damage against this Shadow Alolan Ninetales, taking it deep into the red, very low HP, and Eat Strawberries going right for that Rock Slide, not wanting to risk taking more damage from this Ice-type Pokemon.
You know, as terrifying that this could potentially be for Auburn, I love the way that he's playing this. He brings in the Swampert now, which is going to clear out this, Galarian Stunfisk. Swampert is still imposing even versus something like a Trevenant, but what he's done by bringing in that Alolan Ninetales is he's baited out that Galarian Stunfisk. It is no longer a threat to his Noctowl. This Noctowl now has great play versus the backline of Eat Strawberries, and I think it has the potential to sweep.
I completely agree. We have not seen the Noctowl yet, but there it is, and that is going to spell some disaster. It is going to be very tricky for Eat Strawberries to work his way out of this.
Yeah, you essentially have to fully commit to your Sableye at this point. It's great that you do have this energy advantage as Eat Strawberries, but you are down a shield, and you have to make sure that you can not only knock out this Noctowl, but knock out the Swampert with this, likely with this Sableye as well. So this is going to be very tricky. The Sableye, the Trevenant really only has play versus that Swampert. So yes, it still does have some value, but you're going to need to make sure you get at least through this Noctowl via your Sableye here.
Exactly. Trevenant just can't do much against a Noctowl, can only hit for resisted damage with Seed Bomb or with Shadow Ball. We see the Sableye go for a foul play. This isn't going to be enough, and the Noctowl already at another move, and Auburn used, or Eat Strawberries used both of his shields already.
Yeah, I mean, this is just classic Auburn here. We are seeing Auburn have a strategy going into this game, which is bait out the Galarian Stunfisk with the Alolan Ninetales, then have that Noctowl freed up to sweep these Ghosts, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. These Shadow Claws do nothing versus this Noctowl. Noctowl going to land this Sky Attack. I don't think it's quite enough to knock out, but it's going to be very close, and I don't think there's a chance here for Eat Strawberries.
I don't think so either. The Seed Bomb, I don't even think Auburn needs to shield this. He does not. If this knocks out, I believe it will be enough to. The Noctowl will go down, and the Swampert comes back. The Swampert has 2 moves ready to go. Auburn going for the Earthquake when Hydro Cannon would have been more than enough. Any charge move, honestly, would have been more than enough.
I think a struggle would have knocked out there.
I think so as well. A gust of wind. Auburn with the 2-0 victory, moving on here in the loser side of the bracket.
Recapping on that specific battle between Auburn and East Strawberries, what you had happen there is that you had the lone Ninetales draw out the Galarian Stunfisk. Galarian Stunfisk is very strong, but once you draw it out with the lone Ninetales, you have no checks for that Noctowl. And of course, the benefit here in Show 6 formats is you already have a heads up on what potentially can be in the back for your opponents. And because of that, you can much more strategically plan for it. Swampert with Noctowl is a very strong pairing. They cover each other's weaknesses very well. So if you see a third Pokemon, like a lone Ninetales, then in all likelihood, the Pokemon in the very back is also something that beats Trevenant, right? So you saw lone Ninetales beats Trevenant. The only other Pokemon that's very reliable into it on Auburn's team is that Noctowl. So Auburn actually made this matchup a little bit easier for East Strawberries if East Strawberries decided to stay in. Why I say that is because the Sableye actually had a lot of energy because Auburn swapped out late. It didn't take any damage either, so it still had 2 shields, and you had almost a return ready on that Sableye. Because of that, East Strawberries actually can stay in that matchup and potentially beat the lone Ninetales matchup. If you don't land the Dazzling Gleam against Sableye, you're in a good spot. But on top of that, that Sableye had a ton of energy already, and so in all likelihood, even if Auburn spends both of his shields in that scenario, you can still maintain that alignment, win out that matchup, Sableye versus a lone Ninetales. Regardless of if Auburn comes back in Swampert or Noctowl, Noctowl comes in, you align it with the Galarian Stunfisk. Swampert comes in, you align it with the Trevenant, and you can win that match. In this next example, it's going to be one of my battles from a tournament in San Diego. So in this situation, I saw the bait coming, I did not take it, and we're going to see how it plays out.
That being said, I think Caleb will probably, will probably default to a more neutral matchup. Maybe the Trevenant, Noctowl, Sableye, Medicham, those 4 will come out to play. That being said, we're heading into game number 1 here. Our leads are on the field, and it looks like Caleb picks up a great lead with a Sableye into Trevenant.
Yes, the Sableye is going to be doing super effective damage, so we're going to be seeing a swap here. Caleb opting to stay in with the Sableye and going all the way up to the return and going straight for it. A bold move.
Conglazer instantly no shielding the return, and that's going to deal a lot of damage to his water and electric type Pokemon. Reaching for the Surf here, Caleb has a decision to make, and he actually no shields a potential Thunderbolt there. Going to absorb that neutral charge attack damage, but another Surf is coming here shortly.
And there it goes. Goes to the next Surf. Caleb deciding that he is going to preserve this Noctowl, keeping it even when he had the opportunity to switch, which is really interesting. A lot of times you see like, my opponent switch, I'm going to switch too. I'm going to save this Sableye. But Caleb thinking, no, I think this is exactly where my Sableye wants to be right now. And is going to try to Shadow Claw down the Lantern, but cannot quite make it. Double shielding the Sableye here.
And the reason being, he does have that Noctowl in the back, so even if this Sableye is KO'd, he does have the Noctowl to handle the Trevenant. However, there is a Galarian Stunfisk waiting in Conglazer's back line versus the Registeel from Caleb. So deciding to come in here with the Galarian Stunfisk, I think Sableye will aim to deal some neutral damage, but this Steel-type Pokemon in the back might be the deciders.
It very well may be. So we're going to see this foul play go up against the Galarian Stunfisk. The Sableye still fighting, but now has no shields left to hide behind. No shields, not even the shield Pokemon in Bastiodon to hide behind. And the Sableye now will be cleared off the field.
Actually actively bringing in the Registeel here, looking to land a Focus Blast. We know that 2 charge attacks are required in order to KO the Registeel. Coming through the first Earthquake, no switch outs here, no fancy attempts to catch an Earthquake onto the Noctowl and expose it against the ground and Steel type Galarian Stunfisk. Earthquake does connect, going for the Focus Blast, trying to take away this final shield. This is a pretty tricky situation though.
Yeah, so the Focus Blast hits the shield, protects the Galarian Stunfisk. The Galarian Stunfisk, the Rock Slide isn't going to be enough. It needs to get to the Earthquake. Goes for the Rock Slide. I'm not sure if this is going to take it out. Perhaps trying to get some additional energy here. But will the Registeel get to the Focus Blast? It does!
Registeel clutches up the Focus Blast. The Rock Slide was not enough, and it is going to deliver a KO onto the Galarian Stunfisk, coming in with the Noctowl, and this has to be feeling like checkmate.
It does. We saw Conglazer shaking his head earlier, knowing that there is nothing to be done. Caleb Peng's very dapper Noctowl going to deliver the final blow here against the Trevenant and can secure a Game 1 victory for Caleb Peng.
Noctowl with a golden hat here on the Golden Coast. taking that game #1 victory over his opponent, Con Glazer.
Looking at that specific matchup there, I knew that my Noctowl had an even better matchup against the Trevenant. And again, just like my example with the Blaziken, where I did not fall for the baits, I knew that my opponent would not come in Trevenant into my Sableye, even if they're up a shield. Which means, for the value of a shield disadvantage and only seeing one Sableye, I'm able to see all 3 of my opponent's Pokemon. Take out one, really weaken the second one. I'm at a shield disadvantage, but I get the matchup I want. I have the Registeel matchup against Galarian Stunfisk and Noctowl against Trevenant. In conclusion, this is a really important concept to be aware of, and even in my battle where I fell for the bait, that happened literally yesterday, so even seasoned trainers can make the mistake from time to time. But you just want to be really aware of the situation you're in, especially if your opponent swaps out that quickly. Even if you want to counter swap, you also want to take into account of why they're doing what they're doing, and if you're playing to their bait tactics or not. If you end up using this PvP pro tip, let me know in the comments below if it worked out or not for you, and feel free to share the pro tips video series with anyone learning PvP and trying to get familiar with the different mechanics and all the different strategies. Thank you all for watching. If you liked this video, feel free to give it a like and share, subscribe for future content, hit that notification bell to get alerted right when I post a new video, and I'll catch you all next time.